there is business which is not finished. So as long as we are here, we will fight for that business.
When you're not winning, you're never really quite that happy. We want more in 24, but of course it's not going to be easy to achieve that. We know the competition is tough.
It's going to be an interesting fight. We're giving each other a hard life and we're going to make it interesting and exciting.
Hello and welcome to 2024. This is all about previewing the World Rally Championship. Some new faces on the Dirtfish team. James Bowen, Rally's editor, you know him from last year. Say hello.
Hello everyone. Hello David.
Hello James. We've got Alasdair Lindsay, our new head of content. Hello Alasdair.
Bonjour à tous. I figured I'd make it French, seeing as the Monty's coming up.
Why not? Topical. And Eliot Barnard, featuring in front of the camera for not the first time, second time?
Second, believe it or not. I've been allowed out.
It's not going to happen very often.
No.
Let's talk World Rally Championship. Eliot, you're the man in the know, always the man in the know, but you've actually got some questions for us. You're the one that's done some homework. What are we going to talk about?
Yes, given I'm not the expertise and the journalist on the team today, I'm going to pitch some questions, all things WRC 2024, to the experts, the people behind dirtfish.com. And I'm going to start very simple, boys. What are we looking forward to this year?
Who's going first, Elliot?
That'll
Come
be
on.
you. I made a bit of eye contact there to try and see. I'm not used to this, apologies.
What am I looking forward to? Well, I think probably the biggest thing is just going to be that battle between Hyundai and Toyota. I mean, it's never going to be closer than this year, surely. You know, they're so evenly matched. We've got all the dramatics around Toyota's lineup, having really one championship contender with Elfyn Evans. Hyundai have gone all out. They've got Thierry Neuville and Anoit Tanak. They should be both really right in contention for the championship. But then that manufacturer's battle as well, with Hyundai going with 3 rotating drivers in that third car. How's that going to work? Sébastien Ogier and Kalle Rovanperä are going to play the team game and try and score manufacturer's points. So they're just going to be in it for themselves. I think it's really going to be fascinating to see how that plays out.
David.
That's it. I think he's said it all. And, you know, everything that he said is bang on there. It is going to be completely fascinating. And the different approaches from the two teams, it is quite radical. And, you know, whether Toyota wanted it, which of course they didn't, you know, they would never have wanted Kalle Rovanperä to sit out half of the season. So that's been forced upon them. And it is difficult. It's, you know, Elfyn Evans leading a team for the first time. It's a big ask, really big ask of him. I think he's ready for it. I think he's got the experience now to lead that team. So you've then got the question of, like you say, how does the team deal with it? How does Ogier and Rovanperä fit into that? How much of a wingman can Elfyn consider them? But then at the kind of polar opposite end, you've got Hyundai with these two factions within the team that, yes, we're all mates now, but give them, you know, a minute, and they are going to be battling with each other inevitably. Tanak and Neuville. It's an incredible cocktail within a team. And like you said, it is, for me, it's difficult with the rotating third car. In a way, it's not, because Sordo's got nothing to prove. By his own admission, Lappi's got nothing to prove. So what you don't have is 3 young drivers who are fighting like hell, which, you know, there was a position donkeys years ago we had at Skoda, where Skoda employed a load of young drivers, and Mitsubishi as well, did the same with the likes of Yanni Parsonen and these kind of people, and tried. And that was just, it was a recipe for disaster, because every time a young driver got in the car, they knew they'd got one event, so they'd go like hell and crash within the first day or something. So it's not that scenario. I think if there's one guy that is going to have the point to prove, it's Mikkelsen, who he wants to show that he's still got, you know, he said it to us in an interview at the end of last year. He feels he's still got a championship in him. He's won WRC2 twice in the last 3 years. He feels he can get back into a Rally 1 car full-time and win a title. So he is the guy that is going to be pushing a bit harder and trying to demonstrate that he wants to be back in a full-time seat. The other issue with Andreas as well is that, by his own admission, the team's kind of put him in the wrong rallies, because they've put him in, he's in Monty, he's on tarmac, and when we said, what do you fancy? It was actually rough gravel, and historically, he goes well in places like Sardinia, and Safari would be another good one for him. And he always struggled in the Hyundai on tarmac last time he was there. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And, as well as all of that, to have M Sport with 2 young drivers, particularly Formo coming back, that's going to be fascinating. Adrien is a different driver to the one that we saw 2 years ago, and was off the road almost as much as he was on it. He's learned, he's now British champion, he's won rallies, and he's been under the wing of Malcolm Wilson, which we've seen historically with Elvin and all of these people. When Malcolm takes you to one side and drops you back, takes the pressure away, helps you to win some rallies, then it's a different scenario to come out of. So yeah, I think we've just about covered it.
We've got some new rallies this year, haven't we? So that's also something to look forward to.
You read my mind there, James. New rallies. What are those new rallies, and what's returning? What's debuting?
So Rally Poland's back, I think the first time since 2017. And we've got a brand new rally in Latvia. But of course, it's a brand new WRC round, but we do know a little bit about that event. It's been running as an ERC round before. It's very similar to what we've seen in Estonia, which of course takes a step back to ERC this year. So we sort of know what to expect, but it's still a new country, new stages for most of the WRC drivers, although Mr. Rovanperä, if he chooses to show up in Latvia...
He should have done it.
Yeah, he did it quite a few times. I'm pretty sure he won it as a national round way back in the day.
As a winter, that was the winter rally. I don't know if he did it. Liepāja was originally a winter round, became a summer round.
And of course, more than that, he spent countless thousands of kilometres when he was a junior, because of course the licence restrictions meant that he went to Latvia before he went anywhere else in the world to do his rallying. So it's, yes, he knows the roads on that specific round, but just overall the characteristics of the roads in Latvia, he has so much experience.
Same with Oliver Solberg. He did Baltics, Latvia, Estonia. It is, I think having said all of that, because they're moving, the event's moving around a little bit more, isn't it? So there are some new stages coming in, but they're not going to be radically different. I'm sure the nature of those roads are very fast kind of gravel gravel roads. So it's not going to be massively different. But Poland, to see Poland back is it really exciting. One of the quickest places in the world and ultra spectacular. Inevitably, there's always a lot of spectators there, and it's the control of those spectators that there will be a lot of attention on. The FIA's systems of looking after and looking out for spectators has changed radically since we were there in 2017. There's so much more, not emphasis, there's always been a huge emphasis on safety, but just the infrastructure and protocols that the FIA has now is different. So it's going to be a big ask of them. I would imagine it's going to be, certainly within Europe, one of the biggest and most supported events of the season. So it's difficult. And it's, ultimately, it's a huge challenge because those roads tend to rut quite badly. And when you're absolutely nailed in top gear, the car's moving around in the ruts, it's difficult. And you've got to have a massive amount of confidence in the car at super high speed to win in a place like Poland. So it's great. We have that real sort of festival of speed in the summer with Poland, Latvia, Finland. So it's going to be mega. If there's one thing I would say about the calendar, it's the fact that we need more outside of Europe. We're very Eurocentric. 10 out of 13 are in Europe this year. It's a long way from, if you go back probably now a decade, when Jean-Todt first was talking with the promoter about the fact that we needed 16 rounds and it needed to be 50-50. Half of the rounds in Europe, half of the rounds in the rest of the world. Feels like we're a very long way away from there. But the WRC promoter is working really hard to get us back there. We are talking places like the US, United States, and of course Australia and New Zealand coming back. And there's lots of opportunities, but we do need to become a world championship again.
Correct. Now, Alasdair, I haven't forgotten about you, mate. What things are you looking forward to in 2024?
Oh, big question. I mean, I'm looking through one of the juniors. The Rally Star crop are finally coming through now to the junior WRC championship. They're finally on the world stage after a year and a half or so of preparation. I know that's a huge project. They put so much investment into it. They literally looked through the entire world. You know, before you even had the world finals, you had regional finals set up by ASNs, and you know that's a year and a half.
You could have
qualified
by sitting on your sofa.
Yeah, you could. And in fact, that's very much what the guy from Europe who won, Romet Jorgensen from Estonia, did. You know, he did a bit of folk rally, as they call it in Estonia, in the past, but he'd never kind of done proper stage rallying to any real degree. He'd spent most of his time playing the WRC game. And in fact, I remember a year and a bit ago talking to him about how he managed to qualify. He sat down in front of his video game console, got Microsoft Office out, started typing in split times on his own because the game didn't support it at that time. You just had to sort of pick, you know, is there a tree here? Is there a hay bale there? Right, I'm going to manually go through my replays, time how long it took me to do that section, and then do it 100 times.
That's commitment.
To figure out what the fastest line, and then you just do that ad infinitum, and eventually that worked. It qualified them to go to Estering in Germany, where I think the judges were Thierry Neuville, Pernilla Solberg, you know, people with loads of WRC experience. And I remember one of the things that Romet mentioned to me is that because of the design of the circuit, you could go up onto the top of the circuit tower and see the whole circuit. So they were really carefully inspecting driving styles and so on, and they were able to see, yes, you know, Romet didn't have the most experience of the people there, but clearly he impressed them in terms of driving style, and he's delivered so far. He's been the man to win more Rally Star events than anyone else, as far as I recall.
He does look impressive, and I met him at the FA gala evening in Baku at the end of last year, and his ability to talk very quickly and just to, you know, I'd never met him really before, and immediately he felt very comfortable, at ease. You know, he seems like the complete package already. So I think you're right. You know, we've missed that progression of young drivers coming through, and to have Rally Star there now, right on the cusp of sort of delivering and showing us really what they are capable of, is really exciting. The one guy that has come through from juniors is, of course, Takamoto Katsuta, and we shouldn't forget, you know, as much as the FA Rally Star series is impressive, you know, Toyota's challenge program, Rally Challenge program, of bringing Japanese talent through is now in its third generation. Obviously, we've had Takamoto Katsuta coming through the challenge program, and now we've got Goto and Matsushita, the third generation. Massive investment coming from Toyota into these young talents, and it's really exciting to see, because you know, this is what we need in 5 or 10 years. These are going to be our world champions.
Yes, indeed, David. Now, to be a selfish host for a second, what am I looking forward to? Strangely, yes, I know, what a shock, what a turn of events. What am I looking forward to? Very quickly, because it's a segue into our next section, you see. So I'm working on. I've got Colin Clark in my head. What would he be telling me, mentoring me to do? Yeah, it's dangerous having Colin in here.
Very dangerous.
Let's move on. I'm looking forward, strangely, to Kalle Rovanperä being in the championship in 2024, and the Kalle Rovanperä that we're going to see. Now, he is box office for rallying. His stage end comments, Mario Kart, you know, traction has left the track. Yeah. This has been a Kalle under big pressure, in his own words. So Kalle rocking up at WRC rounds now with a healthy row position, going full send, nothing to lose. That's going to be, I think, an even more relaxed Kalle.
I'd not really thought of that, and you're absolutely right, because we have seen in 2022, we had Kalle really wrestling with himself to get that championship that he really wanted, the first one. And then because of a really difficult start to 2023, to last year, he was then almost not really fighting back, but he was under pressure through that middle section of the season, then crashed in Finland where everybody thought he was going to win. And now you're right, you know, there is no championship pressure. I think he will be minded to look out for Elvin a little bit. And I'm not saying that, you know, Sébastien Ogier won't. I'm sure he will, but Ogier is in a place in his career now that he wants wins. He just, you know, he's there to have fun and enjoy himself, but he's still got that super competitive spirit. And he doesn't know how much longer he's going to be in the championship. It's probably not going to be another 5 years.
No, but we know for sure Kalle Rovanperä is back full time in 25, and he's got to come fit back into that team dynamic.
He has,
and he has to work alongside Elvin Evans. You know,
and he's got so much more opportunity to win rallies, hasn't he? You know, in 10 years he can still come back, whereas Seb will be 50 then, and is it unlikely? So I think you're right. I think an absolute pressure-free Kalle Rovanperä, the world can watch out. There's still some discussion rumbling around what the running order will be for the first day on gravel rallies, and we'll find out. We don't know anything so far, and one of the interesting things that sorry to steal your thunder here and move the agenda on a little bit, but one of the interesting points for this year is, of course, the points system.
How could we forget?
Which has caused, a significant amount of discussion and comment. One of the aspects, talking to people within both the promoter, the teams, and the FAA, is look, if it doesn't work, we can change it.
Mid-season?
Yeah, absolutely we can, because
I'm glad to hear that, because it's a great trying new things, and we absolutely as a sport should be trying new things, but the flexibility to then realise that, okay, it's not quite working, we move on, is important, I think.
I guess, it is difficult, but there is precedent with F1 qualifying. This kind of thing has changed mid-season.
It took them a few false starts to figure out that the Q1, Q2, Q3 system was actually going to do the business, but now they found that format after a bit of trial and error, and it's the best qualifying format in my opinion they've ever had, but it took a bit of time and a bit of experimenting, so we just kind of need to let them get on with it a bit, see how it goes, and we'll evaluate. This
is kind of the point, is that you do feel a little bit for the FAA, because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. They were told we need change. They had input from the teams, so they implemented a change from what I understand that the teams really kind of wanted, or certainly some teams wanted, and now that's wrong. So but they do have the chance, and they are open to change. They will listen, but let's not condemn this thing before it's been given at least 2 or 3 rounds to see what happens. But personally, I think it's mad. But let's be open-minded about it, and let's see how it goes.
If you think about the narrative of an entire season, when are you actually really concerned about the gaps in the championship? As long as you, look at the points after the rally's done and someone's done the calculation, you see, oh, that's a close gap, I'll pay attention to that for the next rally. But in terms of actually tracking the likely outcome of the championship, you only really start focusing on, right, how many points does this guy need to score to achieve this? It's the last 2-3 rounds of the season, unless there's a runaway leader who's going to wrap the championship up early, in which case, who's really that bothered about that, really? It's not as big a concern as I think some people make it out to be, that aspect of it, worrying about can people follow it along.
No, I disagree. I think it is complicated, because commentators are now going to be talking about, well, they could end up with potentially 12 points, and it almost puts another barrier up to the average viewer, not the hardcore viewer.
Yeah. We really don't know exactly how that storyline's going to play out, but let's remember the drivers' jobs is to score maximum points in every rally. And so the drivers will figure out what the best way to do that is, and they'll all drive accordingly as they do now, because they save the tyres for the power stage on Sunday, because that's where they're going to get those 5 points. So my point about needing to have the flexibility to change is, if it could be exciting for a few rallies, and then all the drivers figure out, okay, I need to drive like this on a Saturday to save some tyres for Sunday, so I can store maximum points on a Sunday, and then the whole thing levels out again, then it really hasn't probably achieved the goal that the FAA wanted it to. So it'd be interesting to see if there is a sort of a natural strategy the drivers take.
There will be. Jari-Matti Latvala quite rightly pointed out that if you're a driver and you have a problem on a Friday that knocks you out of drops you to 15th, 16th, you're going to drive so slowly through Saturday to conserve your tyres, to make sure that you've got at least 1 or 2 sets of perfect tyres, and you've got the perfect options available to you through Sunday. So potentially we're just migrating that issue from Sunday to Saturday. But having said that, let's just let it play out and see how it goes. I think we just do exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do let us know what you think in the comments below and on social media. So we've done Kalle. Let's talk about Toyota first and Elfyn Evans. Elfyn Evans this season, Alasdair, what's he got to do? Is it simple?
Reasonably. In the sense that, he knows he's got a good car underneath him. He knows the car now. He's talked a lot over the past couple of years about trying to settle in, get comfortable with it. But you mentioned, I think towards the end of last season, more and more, he was starting to feel a bit more at one with the car. And that's really been the main obstacle, I think. You know, you look back to when he was fighting Ogier for the title, he was always very close. So we know that, you know, he potentially has that title in him. You know, I think he's proven that over the past few years, that he just needs circumstances to be aligned. It just requires a level of comfort with the car. And it's his team now, in a sense. You know, there's no longer another potential number one driver vying for attention, for, you know, test time, whatever it may be. So yeah, he has the ingredients now to go off and get that title. And it's just down to, is he faster than Neuville and Tanak on the day?
I would say he's definitely, this is his best chance, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think he is. I think he, you know, you don't win Finland unless you've got massive talent and massive speed. And he's got both. And we've talked about it so much since the move from M Sport, blah, blah, blah. You know, the maturity has grown every single season. And he goes into this year with a good contract. He knows exactly where he is. He's very comfortable with everything. The only downside was that small whoopsie on the bike just before Christmas. But, you know, he will have recovered. There's been plenty of physio and plenty of work done on his ribs and everything. You know, he'll be in a very good place, I'm sure. Probably not the perfect place, because he missed a day of testing just before Christmas in Finland. So he's a day down on people around him in the team. But it doesn't matter. You know, ultimately, Alvin knows Monty. He's gone well in Monty before. And you were right, you know, that feeling of comfort in the car. When he got into the car with M Sport in, whenever it was, 18 or 19, and immediately felt comfortable. You know, there's nothing a driver wants more than that feeling of putting the car on the limit and actually just sitting there, totally relaxed. You know, it's not a stress, because the car feels everything you're doing as a driver. And when you're trying to force it, the car doesn't work properly. It doesn't work as it's supposed to. And for the last 2 years, certainly from the start of 22 to maybe a third of the way through 23, he was trying to force it. And it was difficult, because then, you know, you're in that position where the team were trying to essentially bring the car to him, and he was trying to take his driving style to the car. And that's never a good place to be when you're trying to change what you're instinctively doing in the car. It's really tough. But I think that he's there now, and he's as much as Elvin can beat Thierry and Oit, I think Oit and Thierry can beat each other, you know, and that can be, and Elvin just has to stay smart in those occasions, because there will be times when he's just going to have to settle down and think, right, okay, those boys are gone, third will do me here. And, you know, sorry mate.
Yeah, no, he's a level-headed driver, isn't he? And that's definitely something Elvin Evans is capable of doing, is just shutting out the outside noise, focusing on exactly what he needs to do, what's the maximum he can get out of this rally, and driving accordingly. And that's how you score points over the course of the season. You look at last year, you know, some superb drives. You take Kalle Rovanperä out of the championship, Elvin Evans did everything he needed to do to win. And I think, you know, we look at 22 as a year where Elvin kind of dropped off a little bit, because he was switching to the Rally 1 car, which didn't quite suit him. And Elvin never had that third year in the WRC Yaris, because it was, and now he's got a third year in the Rally 1 car, where we've seen an upward progression, and maybe that's, you know, in that third year in the same car with all the constants. You know, the team's the same. That's such a closely knit team. The team spirit's so high. He's very comfortable there. The rallies, okay, we've got a couple new ones, but mostly are the same. There's so many constants there that, you know, definitely, you know, it's going to be his best ever chance to win a championship so far. And
the new ones, Poland and Latvia, as we've already said, fast rallies, fast gravel, you know, that's meat and drink, isn't it, to Elvin? Yeah.
One thing I'm really curious about is going to be his approach to the season, because I recall at the beginning of the Rally 1 era, and in those first couple of events, Monte Carlo, Sweden, when he went off the road, he mentioned in an interview that he'd changed mentality a bit going into that season, that, you know, he'd lost out twice to Ogier, and he'd, you know, just left that 0.5%, 1% on the table, thinking, I've got a championship to think about here. I want to make sure I am getting points on the board as much as possible. So he turned around in 2022 and said, right, that didn't get me the title. I'm going to go flat out. I'm going to push that extra little bit and get the results. And the first 2 rounds he changed approach. He was off. So I'm wondering if he's going to go back to that sort of mentality of, I got really close with Ogier when I was being just that little tiny bit more conservative, and Seb's not here anymore. So maybe does he go back to that way of
No, I think
approaching the
he's
season?
learned. I think he's learned, he's accepted it, and I think he's in a place now that he can take his level of driving to that place to bring that many points or risk a bit more. And you know, for sure, Monty it's a great place to start the season because you absolutely roll the dice, don't you? You know, with the conditions, and it does look as though there's some snow coming for this year, which is great news for us, but it makes it difficult. And it will be really interesting to see what the approach is on Monty, but Monty's so specific that you can't take a broader view across the season, because really it wouldn't surprise me to see Ogier a minute ahead on day one, or certainly by Friday night, if you do get changeable conditions and he's willing to take a gamble and take a risk. He has that knowledge of the roads, of the rally, of the weather, of the conditions, of everything, and he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, the feeling is getting better and better all the time. Of course, it was not the ideal off season, let's say, but nonetheless, we're over the worst of it now, and the feeling in the car is fine. So that's the important thing, and yeah, I'm sure that'll be the last we need to hear of it now. Well, of course, 23 was a nice progression from the struggles we had in 22. That was a positive, but of course, when you're not winning, you're never really quite that happy. Still, there was 3 wins in the season, which is the most for me in a single season. So I think it shows that we're at least moving in the right direction. And of course, we want more in 24. But of course, it's not going to be easy to achieve that. We know the competition is tough. It's very competitive out there. So yeah, difficult year ahead like always, but ready to give it our best shot. The team is always working to improve, and in all honesty, there's not been a huge change since Japan. Of course, we're always working on little steps, but yeah, there's been no huge revolution, let's say, but of course, everybody's working all the time and continually improving.
Moving on, James, Takamoto Katsuta. Is it more of the same for him in 2024? Where's his pressure coming from? You know, his seat is very much safe.
Well, he's now fully graduated from the Toyota WRC Challenge program, so he is a full-time factory driver. So I don't think it's more of the same. I think it's a little bit more. I think he's got to challenge for a few podiums this season, and he's got to be showing that he's equally as competitive as the third driver in the Hyundai car. You know, no matter who that is, I think Katsuta's got to show that he's can he match them for pace, and then on merit on the rallies that suit him better, especially Rally Japan, which I'm sure he can't wait to get back to. You know, he's got to be legitimately challenging for podiums for me.
Yeah.
Totally, and I would say step it up. He's got to be challenging for wins. You know, he could have won.
You said last year that you expected him to win in 2023, and yes,
I meant 2024.
we can go back and edit that video. I'm sure we can. Yeah, and Alasdair.
Yeah, I mean the word challenging has been mentioned a lot. I think he must be scoring multiple podiums during the year. I'm not necessarily sure he needs to be. I think the measurement of whether his season's gone well or not, it's not necessarily how many times he's challenged for a first win. It's you're effectively the second driver in the team. You have to bring multiple podiums home to secure points for the Manufacturers' Championship. That is his primary job this year. Jari said, I don't expect him to be a challenge in the title, and that's fine. That shouldn't be his goal. But he's got to rack up multiple podiums on pace and merit alone.
For sure, in the 2023 season, I've been a difficult season, especially in the beginning, and there was also some positives, for example, in Finland and one of the podium. But yeah, at the end of the season, I felt like for sure many things I could have done better, and I made many mistakes. And at the same time, I learned quite a lot of things, like for another step compared to 2022 season. So yeah, let's say I'm not happy about the result and overall, but still I was pretty happy to see that where I can improve and how its progress going, and I'm pretty confident for the new season in 2024. Nice to back on here in France and in the French mountains, which is like snow and slush and some black ice as well. It's very tricky, but always this rally is like start of the season, so feels like we are now in the new season again, and car feels amazing. Of course, last year Monte Carlo also felt very good feeling, but still engineers are very much pushing a lot to improve more. So I can feel it from the like engineering room and even in the used car and factories, everybody working very hard. So I'm quite confident that we are even better than last year. Overall, like at end of the season, we should be better than last year result. I mean, in the championship point and everything. But same time, I'm never like win the rally yet. So this is one of the biggest target, and I try to get the victory in this season. And same time, I need to keep the consistency on podium fight, or at least top 5 on top 3, and stay in the fight. So this is for sure in kind of another next step. But yeah, for sure I'm ready for the next hard work. So
moving on very quickly before we get to Hyundai, Seb Ogier, David, this one's for you. More of this, you know, is he playing a team game this year? Are we going to get him turning up and wanting to win?
Yes,
because,
always.
Or a bit of both?
No, that's the only Ogier you'll ever get, because he knows if he wins, it helps the team anyway. So yeah, more of the same from Seb.
I think it's a chance to still be there after all these years, and I'm happy. Obviously, it's a choice, and I take this opportunity with both hands. The last seasons have been fun for me, even if I was not fighting for the championship like it used to be. I still had a really good time with the team, managed to secure some good results, and I think we want to try to keep surfing this wave as long as we can, and that's the plan for 2024. Starting with Monte Carlo, of course, for me, it's a must-do, and obviously. A lot of hopes for this start event of the season. You know, I always mention that this rally, for me, you need to respect it more than any others. The conditions are always so challenging for us, which in my eyes, you have no guarantee. You know, it's always start from zero again. And even if I've been incredibly successful on this rally, it doesn't give me any guarantee that I will be able to do the same this year. So for sure, I come here with the same respect I always had starting this difficult rally. But motivation is there. His numbers are never really the main motivation. Make it 10 will be very special. You know, I think I take the life and the rally life day by day, rally after rally. And at the moment, the focus is on Monte. But obviously, when you're not planning fighting for a championship, the approach is a bit different. Like I say, you focus on every single event you're going to enter and try to make the best of it.
Now, the elephant in the room is the Hyundai brewing storm, potentially. Well, it's not brewing at the moment, but...
Yeah, it is.
It started brewing at the end of last year, didn't it?
Is it? It's brewing already, James?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic, you know. Cyril Bitterbull, he's not afraid to call out his drivers. He's not afraid to make bold decisions. We've seen that in the WRC. And in Formula One. Oyt Tanak's come back to the team. There's only one thing Oyt Tanak wants, and that's a second world title, and he's going to stop at nothing to get it. But that's Thierry Neuville's team. He's heading into his 11th season at Hyundai. He's so well, you know, just set within that team, and he's very good at playing the political game.
He is. It is going to be great. It really is for everybody around the world watching. It's going to be fascinating. And I'm sure, you know, we'll see plenty of pictures of Oyt and Thierry smiling, laughing together and everything. But to be a fly on the wall in the debrief room after events, because it is a difficult kind of relationship. And ultimately as well, there will be people at Hyundai that haven't forgotten the way that Oyt Tanak left. Yes, the management structure is very different with the Bitterbull and FX, Francois Xavier de Maison there now. But there are people that have been there and they felt the hurt when essentially Tanak left. Well, he didn't essentially, he did. He left a year early on his contract.
Sorry, can I interrupt? As a fan, what do we want to see? Put your fan hat on for
you
a second.
You want to see a massive fight.
You want to see a big...
You want to see Prost versus Senna, don't you? Of course you do.
Do you?
You want to see McRae versus...
Or do you want them to work together well and end this Toyota dominance? You know, as a fan, I'm sure we'll get some reaction.
You want to see fireworks, and fireworks will come from massive intra-team rivalry. And you know, that you look back to 95, that classic fight with Carlos and Colin, it was incredible. And you know, it just raises everything up a level. And so
Same for you, Alasdair?
Yeah. I mean, the example I was thinking of was 2000 when Delacour and Panizzi were both at Peugeot, and there was that scandal about Gilles using notes from illegal recce, and they had this massive open fight. I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but that sticks in the memory. Yeah. They had this open falling out. That's what the fans remember. People still mention it to this day, and it's passion. It's you can't really, I give them a certain amount of a free pass for that, because what else are you going to do? They're not Kalle, they're not Seb, they've not got multiple world titles under the belt. Thierry's not even got one. It's going to be understandable if they're sort of nipping at each other's heels.
But what's also really interesting is the fact that there is so much at stake for Hyundai as well. They need that first ever driver's title. It's remarkable to think how long they've been in a championship and at such a high level, and they've won manufacturers' championships. Two titles there, but they still haven't won a driver's title, and they need that driver's championship. They really do. Korea is clamouring for it, and they've got these two entities who both of them, I do believe, can win a championship, but they both want it so much, and they're both sort of shooting for the same place. It's going to be incredible.
I mean, we have been collaborating for 3 years together, and the collaboration went more or less fine. I would say that the biggest change is that since we have a new team structure, a new management, and I think that things are pretty much clearer for everybody. The targets are given, and the goals are set. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. We're giving each other a hard life, and we're going to make it interesting and exciting. I have always been fighting for equal conditions for everybody, and has been the case so far in Hyundai, and it's going to be the same. However, I think it's understandable that at some point, if there's an obvious advantage for one of the drivers, that the other one needs to be the wingman for the leading driver. The target is to chase once more the driver's title and manufacturer's title. Obviously, Oid back in the team, so we have a strong lineup for next year. Also in the third car with some really strong drivers. So there can and is only one target of chasing both titles. We all know that the Drivers' Championship is also important, and it's the only one we find that we didn't achieve yet. I think we have been 14 drivers in the team. Nobody was able to achieve it yet. So the big target for the team is to achieve the Drivers' title, and it couldn't be any better than having me and Oid in the team this year, having proven that the car is improving all over the last year, and giving us the chance also to fight on the faster gravel rallies like last year's Estonia and Finland. So that wasn't the case before. So now, looking forward. Changes you can apply to a car between two seasons are very small. There's only I would say 4 weeks period where you can work a bit on the car. There's a 2 weeks holiday period as well. And once more, there are the jokers who doesn't allow you any big changes. So there have been done some works, which we have been testing already several times during the end of last year. They will be brought to the car, but there are no major performance changes. The fight for the championship will be as tough as it has been before. There will be again close competition. It's hard to judge at the moment what will be how will the fight look like with the new point system, and having Kalle and Ogier doing a part-time championship. They're definitely going to go for the big points on every single event they are participating, and it could be that both are starting at some of the events and definitely trying to pick the big points from the guys who do the full championship. So I mean, we have to do race by race, take the maximum and make the best out of it. The new point system will make the Sundays probably more exciting for the spectators. Nevertheless, the impression we have as a team at the moment is that the full-time championship drivers have a little disadvantage, because obviously on Friday you have the worst road condition, and you have only Saturday to try and catch back a bit of that time loss from the Friday. Only on Saturday before already some points are handed out to the drivers. And it's going to make it very challenging for us when you have drivers, part-time drivers like Ogier, Kalle, even Sodo and Mikkelsen starting from the back of the field. So they're going to go to take the big points, and the full-time drivers will be left with the small amount of points, the smaller gaps between the drivers as well. So it's going to make it a bit more challenging to pull away for the championship, but the championship might be interesting.
It's great to be back, of course. So yeah, how it's going to be, we will find out. But yeah, so far, trying to take the maximum out to be prepared for the season. The company has been working quite a lot forward to build up the new structure and yeah, to be ready to be competitive in the championship. So I mean, already last year we saw that there's been some quite big steps done with the new team principal and technical director and some other stuff. So altogether, yes, the intention is clearly there. Every year is opportunity. So yeah, and same time there is business which is not finished. So as long we are here, we will fight for that business. Every year you start, you know, the target is always the drivers' championship. You know, everything is followed and done by the driver championship, and yeah, it means everything for everyone. But it's the one which is very difficult to achieve, and it takes big effort, and yeah, it means a lot of success during the year.
We're all going to be watching that one closely. Let us know what you want to see as well in the comments below. James, we touched on Mikkelsen a bit earlier. And actually, before we get to Mikkelsen, Lappi, Sordo...
Sordo be Sordo. I don't think there's too much to say there.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Solid points. Lappi, it'd be great to see him come back from where he was at the end of last season, because he was looked like a broken man at times. But we think 4 or 5 rallies for Lappi, ones that suit him, should be a lot better for him, and he's got plenty of time to prepare for it. Less pressure, should be good for him.
It is a sort of difficult position, isn't it, to be in, that essentially he's wanted to take that step back, and it's laudable. You know, as a parent and a family man, I can totally understand the rigours of being on the road. You know, it is difficult, but then you kind of counter that with the fact that he's in the most privileged position a rally driver can ever be, and if you begin to question your own desire to be there every single day, every minute of, you know, if you put that to a Solberg, for example, you know, the Solberg family lives to open the car door and get back in the car, and to them a part season, it doesn't make sense at all, and it is a different mindset, and there are people who question EP's kind of drive and his desire to get back to the top of the sport, but I think in many ways he can be a real asset to the team, because he's going to achieve what he wants. He's going to have his family time, and potentially he'll come back as a more rounded driver, as a more rounded and sanguine person, if you like, that he can just do his job. And I think at the back end of last year, he was contorted a little bit because he wanted to win. He wanted to show that, you know, he'd come really close in so many rallies earlier in the year, but also he wanted to make that decision to step away a little bit. And so ultimately he is one of the nicest people in the championship. He's a lovely guy, and you know, we all want to see EP happy and doing well in his job. So, you know, fingers crossed. It's just another fascinating aspect of this season ahead.
Yeah. Alasdair, Mikkelsen this year, what's his goals? What is his goals going to be for himself? What's he expected to do? Is it multiple podiums?
No, for me, it's when, if for any reason, he doesn't get asked to move over for Tanak and Neuville. Which may, of course, be more difficult to do for him because he's stuck on the tarmac rallies where road order, for example, is less of a factor. You know, if he was on some gravel rallies, he might be able to shoot into the lead on Friday, have a Toyota behind him, and then you can't implement team orders. But with tarmac, it's a bit of a catch-22 situation because he needs that win to show the world I'm back and I can contend for world titles. So I guess podiums. I would say every single time he's in the car, podium has to be the target. Yeah, I mean that would be a statement. That would be that would change the narrative. I think.
And in fairness, you know, your approach to Monty, he could do that quite easily. Of course, he couldn't do that quite easily. It's never easy to get a podium in Monty, but there is that aspect of gambling and risk and reward and everything. So if you're a bit canny, you can. It's possible. In terms of sheer pace, I would be astonished to see Mikkelsen on the podium in Monty, and I think it's unrealistic. Given, and you know, another aspect of this is that he will have got probably 1, maybe 2 days running in the car. You know, certainly only 1 day of running on tarmac or in Monty conditions. So, yeah, I think it's going to be tricky for him.
Yeah.
Now it feels really good to be back in with Hyundai and also back in the WRC. Obviously, that's what we've been fighting really hard for since 2019. When we went out from WRC, we took the step down to WRC2, trying to fight our way back, and here we are. You know, 2023, we had an amazing season. But then I realized, or I got some interest, that things started to move a little bit. So that was really nice to see that, yeah, that there was still a possibility to do the comeback in WRC. But for sure, year by year, I thought my chances was getting less and less. I'm doing the tarmac rounds. Limited testing, it's not easy. I will have 1 day in the car before Rally Monte Carlo goes on. So it's not a lot, but I'm very happy I'm starting with Monte Carlo because there's so many other factors there as well. You don't need to know your car 100% to do well there. So I'm excited I'm starting with Monte Carlo, even though it's a tricky one. But I hope by the end of the year that, you know, our job is try to beat some Toyotas and give points to Thierry and Oit and help them in any way for the driver's title. So if I can manage to stay in front of some Toyotas, I will be very happy with that.
It's great to have Andreas back, and we wish him all the best. Talking of drivers coming back, M Sport was 2 new, I say new faces, new full-time faces, not in terms of Formo, who's obviously done time before, but it's a new kind of approach, I guess, for M Sport is what I'm trying to get at. Well, okay, not a new approach, it's kind of maybe back a couple of years.
Every time, yeah.
I think the goals are very different for Formo and for Munster. I think, you know, Formo 12 months ago, did he think he'd be getting, I'm sure he believed he would be back in a Rally 1 car because all drivers have a ridiculous amount of self-belief, but it was quite a path to get there, and he's done everything he's been asked by M Sport. He's helped them develop the Rally 2 car, he's gone to national rallies and won, he's come back to WRC rounds and been the fastest guy in a Rally 2 car on multiple occasions. So yeah, he's earned that spot, but again, I don't think it's enough for him to come in and finish 7th. If you know, M Sport maybe 7th and 8th naturally where they, you know, maybe will fall in the Rally 1 field. I don't think it's good enough for Formo to be behind all the Hyundais and Toyotas. He's got to be challenging, especially the drivers in those third cars. And you know, I'm confident that he will do that. I think he's got the talent. I think he's matured a lot in the last 12 months, and I think he can do that despite the fact that Japan wasn't exactly the ideal return to Rally 1 when unfortunately he went off the road. For Munster, it's probably a bit early in his development on a natural progression, but hey, he's got the opportunity, so good for him, and you know, we'll look forward to seeing how it gets on. But in terms of expectation, I think just to learn and to keep it on the road.
For me, I think, you know, Munster really surprised me when he took that step. I remember we saw him in Japan in 2022, and he wasn't nowhere, but he wasn't one of the standout WRC2 drivers that you look to immediately as a proper championship threat. And the step up for him has been really good. And, you know, for a lot of drivers, they've struggled with that step to Rally 1. He hasn't. And, you know, okay, he wasn't setting the world alight in Chile and wherever else at CER.
Tough rallies, though.
Tough rallies, and he delivered. You know, he did a solid job for them, and his progression. And I think we'll see more progression from him through the season. He just needs to calmer. You know, just do what he's got to do in the car. Formo, it's different. It's crucial for Adrian that he goes to Monty relaxed. You know, just get to the end of that event. No heroics, you know.
I mean, we're not going to see Friday morning from 2022,
you know, you can't.
Again?
You've got to leave the family at home. You've got to focus on, and I'm not saying he wasn't 2 years ago, of course he was, but just, it's a different target in the first 2 or 3 rallies. You know, he's lucky, not lucky, it's good. He's got Safari as a third round. He adores Kenya, absolutely loves the place and feels very at home there. It'll be great for him to get back there and just settle in, but then quite quickly we then need to see some fastest times, and we need to see him pushing. Podium is a big ask when you've got the top three, but how often are we going to see the top three finishing every rally? Probably. The fight is going to be so intense that it is going to take a toll on those three drivers. So we are going to see them dropping out, and that's going to open up a podium spot. And certainly mid-season forwards, Adrian has to be knocking on the door for that third place.
Well, my main goal was in the 23 season to go back in the Rally 1, so to be at that point where we go back to the Rally 1 for the 24 season for sure was a big satisfaction. So I did celebrate it with my family during the Christmas time. It's always difficult when you have a mistake and you are close to the end of the season where you need to do a new contract. But the discussion started much before than Japan, so there was some fear, but it was still okay. Well, I think I just want to do what I was doing 23 and don't be talking too much about 22. My approach is different on a bit everything, so I have learned a lot on the 23 season, so I just want to do the same for 24. Well, Malcolm was really pleased with what I was doing last year, and the only advice was giving me to do exactly the same, and yeah, I think it could work that way. I think this year the Monte Carlo can be really interesting, where the stages are much more in the north of the country, in the mountains, so where the rally is most of the time with really mixed conditions, some snow and ice, so we should use the stud tires, I think. And so it makes the rally much more difficult, but in the past when the conditions were like this, I was really performant and I was really enjoying it. For me, it's a proper Monte Carlo, so actually I would like some really mixed conditions and even maybe some snow. It's really nice to drive, so we'll see, but for sure I want quite difficult rally. For Monte, it's really about the driver, because you don't really need the fastest car in Monte Carlo because the conditions are so changeable, so tricky. It's much more about the feeling that the drivers have with all those kind of conditions. To be used to use that road and to be okay with your pace note and the gravel crew, etc. It's really important. We need a lot of information with the weather changing a lot, so I think it's the whole package, but it's more about the driver and all the info he can have and the feeling. Well, it's really special. We are middle of Monaco, where it's a lot of luxury, etc. You pass the podium and then you go in the mountain, middle of nowhere, with the snow, slick tires, and you will go on ice, or with stud tires you will go on dry. It's really something special. It's a long road section until the first stage, so many things can go in your head, and a really nice feeling, or wrong, like a bit some fear, maybe not fear, but just a little bit of stress. It's really special one.
I mean, I've actually already had the pleasure of speaking to Gregoire in the lead up to this season, and he's kind of said some of the things that David's already hinted at. I mean, number one is finish the rally. Absolute number one. You know, they've had issues with that in the past with their young driver strategy. He has to get the thing to the finish line and then be selective about where you push and try to make an impression. Maybe it's a gravel rally you have experience on and you have good road position and you can push a bit on a Friday morning and then have some of those days like Pierre-Louis Loubet had when things were going well for him. I think it was it Kenya or was it Acropolis where he had that really strong start. I think it was Acropolis, and he was fighting for the lead and it took us all by surprise. We're like, wow, where's this pace come from? And Rich Milner said the same thing. We didn't expect him to do that. It's just picking and choosing those events where he feels comfortable, he feels he's got a chance to do something, and maybe he's got a little bit of the circumstances a little bit on his side, and that's when he can say, right, I've got plenty of finishes under my belt. This is the time I pick to try and make an impression.
And
that's
it gives you
basically
massive
the plan.
confidence as a driver when you get those stage times and you see those results coming to you. You feed off that. So yeah, it's always exciting to go back to seeing young drivers coming through. It's great. M Sport's done this time and again before. You know, obviously there are commercial realities for M Sport, the reason that they're in this position. Everybody understands that. But fundamentally, the most important thing is that we've got those two Puma Rally 1 hybrids out there. That's so important. So yeah, it's great.
Indeed, it's going to be an incredible season of WRC. David, final thoughts. I'm handing back to you now. I'm retiring as host. It was fun while it lasted.
You've been a brilliant host. I don't know why you're not sitting here and you've got a new job, an extra job. It's going to be a great year, and there's only one place to watch it all unfold, dirtfish.com. Stay with us. We'll have Colin Clark, The noise will be back. He's obviously away in Dakar at the minute. Cole, we're no, we're not. Yeah, we're sort of missing you a little bit. He'll be back, and all of our event coverage kicks off with Monte Carlo, so can't wait to see you out there.